I'd like to call on Attorney Rich Mitchell. We're going to have a public hearing. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the County Legislature of the County of Oswego will meet at the Legislative Chambers, 46 East Bridge Street, Oswego, New York, 13126, at 7 o'clock p.m. on the 9th day of June 2022 for the purposes of holding a public hearing on local law number 5 for the year 2022, establishing non-consensual towing and storage fees for towing services dispatched by the county. By order of the County Legislature, May 12, 2022, Betsy Sherman Saunders, Clerk. Any persons wishing to be heard on proposed local law number 5 of 2022 concerning non-consensual towing and storage charges, please step forward and state your name.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to call forward David Reeder to come forward. I'd also like to mention Mr. Reeder perhaps was a former legislator here in these chambers. So I'm sure you remember that we have 5 minutes. Yep, thank you.
Under the local law that you proposed today, the legislature, there are some flaws in it. Minor flaws that can be corrected. I understand the concern with the fees being charged by some tow companies. Doing this for 37 years, I have witnessed and seen astronomical things that shouldn't never have happened. But I asked the legislature, don't penalize the people that are out there doing a great job. There are a tremendous amount of effort, will for all these tow companies that sacrifice their time, their family, their weekends, their holidays. When an accident happens, nobody understands it until you're there. You're in it. You're part of it. When debris is scattered 150 feet, car parts, personal items, cell phones, you name it. I would like everyone to understand that cleanup, the total cleanup, putting that car on the flatbed, all the debris in the car or on your flatbed, then taking the vehicle to your facility, unloading it, and cleaning up the debris in your yard. There's many aspects that are not seen by the public. You see a tow bill, and everybody gets all alarmed. This is outrageous. You do not understand what is involved in all that. The equipment. I just bought a brand new truck for $127,000. With the salt and calcium that is applied on the roads on a daily basis in the winter, how long do you think that truck's going to last? Understand that the fees that are imposed on the individuals when we tow, that is incorporated in it, including the actual 2 to 3, 4% increase in insurance every year. Now on top of that, take the fuel cost. And you come out with the fairy dust list of what can be imposed by tow companies. Before you approve this, make sure you understand how this impacts us. When we get called by 911, who you think's at the scene? None of you are there. Law enforcement's there. We are there. We're there to take care of what is at hand. Law enforcement makes it safe for us. We have to deal with the aftermath. You put in there registered mail. Do you understand what registered mail and certified mail is? That's one issue. There's many other issues in there and that I just looked at the last hour, and I swear to God the last hour that I looked at this. There's 3, 4 other things that need to be addressed. I understand everyone sitting in these chairs, and may have been with a constituent with the concerns, which I understand that. I was there. But we as tow companies, we extend the amount of money to maintain our rigs, keep our rigs adequate and safe for the public also. And when we get called, we go right then. So I would like to say, I hope that this can be looked at and some changes made in it before it actually goes to a final resolution to the floor. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ed Bellinger. Thank you, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Actually, I agree with almost all the resolutions. I think it's a great idea that you guys are doing because I've seen so many toll calls that are just astronomical. It's like I just scratch my head thinking, oh my God, how can anybody charge that? But my biggest complaint about the toll business is I actually used to do a lot of tolling for Fulton and stuff, and now the city cops, they thought I went out of towing because this thing about the closest tow, everybody has all these fake addresses now. In fact, I have one right in my hand that I just got yesterday. Guy comes in, he goes, I said, where are you from? He goes, oh, I'm from Brewerton. Well, the accident was over on Curtis Street in Fulton. His tow address is the little ice cream shop there next to the old Swiggle, so which is a quarter mile away from where the accident was. So it takes the guy an hour to get there. Now the guy calls up, he's searching all over the county looking for his car. People are always calling me, where's my car? I can't find my car. I called everybody in the area. Well, the cars are in Brewerton, they're in Hastings. You know, I mean, this call the closest tow truck thing is not working because they all have these fake addresses. I only have one address, and we don't have any fake. I could play the game because I have property in Fulton, but I don't do that. So, but that's my big complaint. Other than that, I think everything you guys are doing is great because I do think they need to put the brakes on some of these guys. Not everybody, because some of these guys are just crazy, charging crazy money, especially to the public. You know, you get these people in there. You got a young single lady, maybe she got a kid or something. You get a flat tire, they don't think nothing of charging her $250 for the tow and $60, $70 for storage. I mean, you literally put these people right into a panic because they don't have that kind of money. You know? So, anyways, that's all I got to say.
All right, thank you. Next, could we have Paul and Rainville?
Right. She just signed it too.
Oh, that's Dave's fault. I signed it. You have 5 minutes.
Well, a few of the questions have been said about people that got tow yards that aren't a tow yard. They're the residents. It's not a tow yard. A few other questions is I haven't heard too much about what we got to comply to have a tow yard. I mean, I understand we got to have fences and all this other stuff. I live in the middle of nowhere and I live in my own tow yard. That's one thing. Jay's given me a lot of insight on what's going on, so I don't have a lot of questions to ask other than I have to learn a little bit more. I've had it explained to me and understand this consensual, non-consensual tow thing. That's usually about it. I mean, and some of the charges, like the body shops, they get $100 a day storage. Is that right for the tow companies? They're basically getting a car dropped off, put in their parking lot, and get $100 a day storage. You know, like Dave even said, we go out and do the work. I almost got hit by a tractor trailer the other day coming down 69 and 65 mile an hour and he never slowed down. I mean, we put our lives on the line. Martinez, towing in Syracuse, he got hit by a driver, killed him. We don't want that. We don't want that. You know, and the other thing is, like with this towing thing, we're going to start needing the people's names, addresses from the police because they know it all right there. A lot of times we don't. And we have to wait for either the people to call us or they just don't have any money to call you, bother you. They just leave the car in your yard for 2 years. You know, them are some of the things that should be addressed today. You know, I think having the piece of paper from the state police having the name and address of the registered owner of the car is going to help us. That's in case we gotta send out certified letter, now we know where it's going. That's about all I got to say. I just think that's a good, a good start. Sometimes we get it, but we don't get addresses or nothing else. So, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would assume then,
Excuse me, is that microphone supposed to mean that we can hear people in the back? Because it's not working, if that's what it's supposed to do.
Might not be. Hello? Nope. Don't know how to turn it on. It's not.
It's turned on. Repeat that.
Battery in it.
Your guy has to.
Put your mic-
Check, 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 check.
Put this right.
that microphone.
I put it in the bedroom.
Check, test. Nothing's.
No.
1, 2, 3. Check, test. 1, 2. Check, test.
My light,
Same.
my light's out, but
They switched everything over to the Yeah.
fair. No idea. I've been retired now 2 years.
Right now, it's not just that, like,
A lot of the contacts case from there. People walk in and where you belong. So I'm just. Yeah. We had different stuff. I got so many different things. All that stuff. Right. Yeah. And so as of now, I have no idea. I say. Oh, it was you know, here's the numbers that they take it out and they come back in and every time you check it out, it's right where you store it, you're stored it under the bridge. So they're getting contaminated with snow and dirt.
Yes.
It needs to be something.
It's not getting any speakers.
Oh, I have been a lot of money to spend. It's spent again. And now they've got the ice, in the winter, so they take it out. And then it was, then we would have the rainers, one tiny, jumping on slide. That was the problem, so we didn't go on, so we gotta take it out, so the sliders, put it in, and then every time it was set.
Check, 1, 2.
everybody want to come back up? All right, thank you. I assume Rainville spoke for Paula Rainville. So next we'll go to Steve Burdick. Thank you, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for everybody showing up on the towing in and other things here tonight. Last time I was out here, back about 12 years ago, kind of talking about the towing episode, I wrote a letter in and talked to my legislator, Burdick, and said, hey, we're not getting much towing at all. I says, you're kind of starving our business out, we kind of come down, only get 3-4 jobs a year, just doesn't cut it for the payroll and expenses for trucks and stuff, and and things kind of, she kind of come to my house and said, here, when I was home with my kids, said, hey, if I hear anything about starving kids, I'm gonna report you guys into the social services and threw some old hamburger at my kids and stuff, this and that, So I kind of complained about it, come here and complain and this and that, and kind of was, kind of just bumming a little bit, scaring my kids big time. And And, and then from there, you know, then I kind of forewarned Swingle County. I said, hey man, you guys, you know, better be careful, man. I said, don't be bothering me like that. You guys can be held liable, and you know, and you know, old Charlie Nellis years ago, the old sheriff, he used to complain about towing. He'd come right in, and, you know, and take great care of you. Said, hey, they're not being fair. He took great care of the old sheriff. He lived in Parrish, and nice gentleman. But ever since he kind of left office, but I haven't kind of done nothing since Don Hilton's been in. But you know, things have kind of blew up in their face kind of from there, and the county's face. You know, they played the game, and you know, kind of tried to say my license was suspended. Albany screwed it up, and they arrested me in front of my 2 kids and stuff. That, you know, my 18-month-old boy, and trying to protect him, and deputy that didn't have much experience, and trying to keep him out by the road without, you know, being restrained and stuff. Just tell him I don't want my little kid being there. But anyways, I bet you Swiggle County's probably spent $3-4 million fighting us back and stuff. That state of New York, and then they ended up hiring the state of New York, and I don't know if Swiggle County has something to do with it. They ended up hiring my lawyer after 85,000 pages of back and forth of legal stuff back and forth, and $3-4 million instead of trying to beat these. And you know, my shop's been shut down for 12 years now, and you know, family of 6, picking on me with a family of 6, but in 2009-10, in the middle of a big recession, you know. But then you see Aaron Maxwell deal and Jordan Brooks. That's kind of how I come to the Lord way back 38 years ago. Just seeing what Oswego County and the state's kind of all about and stuff, and so that's been a good thing there. But with the towing in here, you know, everybody puts their. I got struck by a car myself way back in '84. Tow was snapped in half outside my tow truck. I slammed into me and sent a car into me. Then I found out 3 years later my vertebrae had a big squash in it. 10 doctors would tell me that. They covering the head up. 10 doctors later, state New York hospital. But anyways, the bottom line is everybody, these guys put their lives out there at risk. That some of these guys only get a few jobs themselves, and that custom, the custom boy, they're shameless, whatever they are, getting 80% of the work, you know. You know, you go out and sit in Auburn, they split the work up out there, it's on a list, rotation list. Even if the guy has AAA, they still give it to the guy that's next on the list, and other parts around the state, they divide the work up. One guy might get it for the whole week, get the whole county for the whole week, another tow company gets, you know, they just kind of split it up fairly. But Oswego County, you know, that's, I think a few other people are gonna have to come to the Lord, this boy, you know, just to keep their cool, because, you know, it's a whole different deal out this way. Kind of sad but true in the state of New York, and with Jordan Brooks and the Aaron Maxwell deal, you know, they're up in heaven, and, you know, it's kind of a, you know, Art Giersbeck fought throughout the years, you know, good multi-millionaire guy, self-made, and just trying to help the area out. With the social services, wanted to get in there and just try to fix things. Now they wouldn't even let them in there an inch at a time, you know. Valley News used to report on that all the time, and, you know, but hopefully things can, you know, this one guy getting 85% of the work, you know, something just isn't right, and, you know, it needs the fairness, you know, and I've got kids, you know, my last kid, you know, 14 and a half, gung-ho about being in the business and stuff, you know, and, you know, so hopefully fairness can kind of come along the line, because, you know, that's, you know, there's, in God we trust, He's the one overlooking, you know. God we trust there. God bless us.
Is there anyone else wishing to be heard on the, for the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, there being no other persons wishing to be heard, I request to declare the public hearing closed at 7:22.
Thank you. Move on now to our regular legislative meeting for June 9th, 2022. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Michael Yurden. Present. Herbert Yurden. Present. Edward Gilson.
Here.
David Holst.
He's here. I see him.
Roy Rehill.
Here.
John Martino.
Here.
Frank Lombardo.
Here.
Paul House.
Here.
James Weatherup.
Here.
Mary Ellen Chesbro.
Present.
Linda Lockwood. Here. Richard Klein.
Present.
Patrick Twist has been marked excused. Stephen Walpole has been marked excused. Nathan Emmons has been marked excused. James Scanlon.
Here.
Laura Nagano. Here. Robert Wilmot.
Here.
Marie Shad.
Here.
Tim Stahl.
Here.
Noel Samuelson.
Here.
James Carasset.
Here.
Michael Soloway.
Here.
Mark Greco.
Here.
Frank Castelia.
Wouldn't miss it.
Mr. Chairman, they have the quorum.
All right, thank you. Would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Let us be thankful for the opportunity to come together here today to serve in the role of government, for the chance to be of service and make our communities a better place to live for our constituents, friends, and family. Help us to remember that we all wish for a healthier, happier, more prosperous tomorrow, and that the debates we enter are only to decide which road to take. Grant us clarity of purpose and protect us from all distractions. Amen.
We also have a moment of silence for Carlton Rusaw, legislator from the 11th District, for 3 terms from 1998 to 2001, to 2004, and 2005. Thank you. Now would Mr. Boozer lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to do a little bit of an audible as we have some children here. We were going to do Dairy Month at the end, but we're going to do Dairy Month now. I'd like to thank, first off, I'd like to say there's chocolate milk up front. If you could save me one, that'd be great. The milk and cheese was donated by the Burn Dairy, the Kloss Cheese, and Cooperative Extension. So at this point, could Paul Forestier, the Dairy Ambassador, and the Human Services Committee and guests come forward.
Human Services or EDP?
That's Human Services. Whoever wants to come on.
I'm on both of them.
Yeah, both of them. Was it different like that up?
All right, is everybody ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And a second. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
It's my privilege to be able to read this proclamation since I milked cows for over 20 years and understand all of the work that goes into making the delicious chocolate milk that is back there and more delicious milk that is in our grocery stores today. Whereas, June is the month where nature bestows upon us her most nearly perfect weather. Well, maybe these last few days aren't really perfect. And so it would follow, though, that June is also the most fitting month to celebrate milk, nature's most nearly perfect food. Whereas the wide variety of agriculture in New York State directly and indirectly employs almost 500,000 people, with dairy farming ranking first in agriculture income. And whereas the dairy industry in Oswego County is a significant contributor to over 94,000 acres of agricultural land, with a market of land, buildings, equipment, and cattle worth $195 million. And whereas June is traditionally identified with the delicious idea of eating refreshing and nutritious dairy foods, now therefore, James Weatherup, Chairman of Oswego County Legislature, and the entire legislature do hereby proclaim June 2022 as Dairy Month in Oswego County and propose a salute to milk the beverage that has helped our children grow taller, our adults become more vigorous, and our senior citizens to enjoy the longest, most productive lives in the history of the world. Please do enjoy the chocolate milk back here. Today what we have here is Hattie Wallace. She is our Swingle County Junior Dairy Ambassador. They no longer have crowns or sashes. They have little badges now, so times are changing. But Hattie, if you would like to say a few words.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to thank everyone for allowing me to be here in this amazing time of the month. And I just want to say I'm so happy we are promoting such an amazing product, milk, and that we can keep on doing it. Me being firsthand experiencing it, milking myself, it's really an honor to be up here. Thank you.
Hey, brought me a chocolate milk. Could I have now, could I have Kelly Darling, Marty Babcock, and the Human Services Committee come forward?
Everybody ready? On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. In a second. 1, 2, 3. And we got it.
Congratulations.
So this young lady, wait until we're done, we're going
Okay, so this young lady has worked for the county for 30 years now. Has worked as an examiner the majority of the time, always a social welfare examiner, and pretty much has done every program that we have. The latest few years that she's been with us, she's been working with our fraud unit, recalculating benefits if there was an overpayment and trying to help determine whether that was the agency's error or the person's error or whether it was intentional and how much money we're talking about so that we can take appropriate action. So she's fabulous at it, knows all the rules for every program that we have, which is making her going to be a real big hole in our team. So she says she'll come back, but only for a couple weeks at a time, every so often. Every 2 months.
So are we doing
Do you
photographs?
have your family card? They said they don't. Okay.
Thank you
So
so much.
congratulations. Thank you.
That's all right.
We have Erica Schreiner, the Envirothon winners, and the EDP committee. Please come forward.
Jim, you going to join us?
Everybody?
Yes, thank you very much. All right. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And the second. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Once again, I have a pleasure of being up here giving a proclamation, and it's special to me because I went to this Envirothon and sat down with these kids, watched a lot of different schools, and saw what they do. It is a fantastic educational thing, and as a past teacher, I was fascinated by all the knowledge and the different ways that they're showing the hands-on. So, Oswego County Envirothon, first place Oswego High School. Whereas, a community is created by the hearts of its citizens, sustained by those dedicated to the prosperity and inspired by the special heroes of everyday life. Whereas the Oswego High School that competed in the 30th annual Oswego County Envirothon at the North Shore Sportsman Association in the town of Constantia on May 5th, placing first in overall performance over 6 other competing schools. These guys are really good. I'm going to tell you, I sat when they were really good. Whereas the Oswego School competed then in winning that, whereas the Oswego High School competed in the New York State Envirothon on May 22nd and May 26th at the Hobart and William Smith Colleges in Geneva, New York, placing 8th out of 35 teams in the state. Whereas the Envirothon, coordinated by the Oswego County Soil and Water Conservation District, is a hands-on, outdoor environmental education competition that tests the knowledge of students in the subject areas of aquatics, current environmental issues, forestry, soil and land use, and wildlife. Whereas the Oswego team was made up of Jack Del Conte, August Dworkowski, Stephanie Sprague, Noah Wilder, and Joseph Del Conte. Yes? And guided by advisor Julia Kinsey. Is Julia up here? Your advisor? No? Whereas such an example of dedication and commitment to our environment is inspiring and deserves our proud attention and community recognition. Now, therefore, be it resolved that James Weatherup, Chairman of the Swingle County Legislature, on behalf of the entire legislature and the people of Oswego County, do hereby recognize Oswego High School and commend each student, team advisor, families, because I know there was a lot of that involved there too, for their efforts, guidance, and support that bring the youthful inspiration to our grateful community. Thank you, guys. What you've gone through and all? No? Quiet little heroes they are. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We could have Marlia Munger, Jin Chang Wang, and the Health Committee please come forward.
Everybody ready? Yeah. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And the
second. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you very much.
So, 10 years? No. 30 years.
38 years.
38 years.
It's been 38 years.
Yeah, 38 years. That's an amazing career with Oswego County. We're so grateful to have you. I wish you would stay, you know, a little longer, but
But I failed.
anyway, remarkable career. It's very grateful. Our health department obviously has been through a lot of trials and tribulations over the last 2.5 years. The workload has been more than just day-to-day demanding. It has been a total quest from the moment you walk in the door to the moment that you leave. And good, bad, or indifferent on what people may think, thank God we had our health department to walk through this COVID, and we so appreciate the years that you've put in and wish you the very, very best. You want to say anything?
I'm going to miss coming to work every day, doing what I do, but it's time for me to go to the next claim, the next thing that I'm going to do. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to
Right. You stay here. Enjoy. Your name is on my list. You guys stay here. So, Chairman Weatherup has a few comments. For those that are not aware, this will be Jane Chang's last. I always mispronounce your name, but it's too late to change it now. Yeah, oh, it is right. See, guys, you were all wrong. I had it right. Anyway, this is his last meeting. He's accepted a position in another state, and we'll have some comments here, but Jim would like to speak to this.
Thank you. Although it's already been announced, it is an unhappy task of announcing that the Swingle County Public Health Director, Jim Chang, is retiring at the end of this month. Jim Chang has been at the helm of our health department for the last decade. When he came here in 2012, he made it his mission to promote good health in Oswego County. Over the years, he helped form a number of community partnerships, and he developed a variety of public health programs. Thanks to these efforts, I'm happy to say that Oswego County has, in fact, improved its state health ranking. Now, he would, of course, shine the light on the team at the health department and the community collaborations that all come together to help create novel solutions to some of the most pressing health problems. And while all of that may be true, we all know that his passion and drive to help people are a large part of that story. Most recently, his guidance through the COVID-19 pandemic proved invaluable. He remained a steadfast champion of public health over the last 2 tumultuous years. He reassured residents at every clinic, helped with the distribution of personal protective gear and COVID-19 tests, and he was there at the development of the award-winning COVID-19 hotline, the online dashboard to track daily and weekly reports, and the online portal to report test results and request paperwork. Through it all, he remained committed to safeguarding the health and well-being of us all. Swingle County residents have benefited greatly from his outstanding leadership, tireless advocacy, and active participation in the community. Thank you for your hard work and dedication, Jim Chang, and best wishes on your next adventure.
Minus the dog.
1, 2, 3. And the second. 1, 2, 3. Got it, thank you.
Thank you. One last comment again. Doc has led this department, and I want people to understand that this county, for a county this size, is very unusual. We have a full-service health department. Because of that, we receive a lot more in grant funding. We do a lot more in programming. Successful programs include My Baby and Me, Healthy Miles, healthy eating. A lot of things in a county this size have been brought forward underneath his leadership and continue to make an effort at trying to raise the overall bar for residents in this county. And find every year we inch up a couple notches, we drop a little bit, but we inch up a couple more. And that's the kind of things that as we develop as a county, future businesses and that would look at that, you know, what kind of things do we have to offer? And we offer a full service health department. And I have learned so much from you. I even now know how to take the top off of the aspirin bottle without tearing up my hand. I'm only joking.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I want to say, yes, a lot you heard is overstated. The reason is because in our department we have a wonderful team like Maria, Dr. Lepke, Vera, all sit there. They are representative. We have a wonderful team. And another I want to point out is really, health is not just healthy, and Legislator Rehel last time sit with us and he saw it. Really, county health improved, yes. We did some new program and helped, but fundamentally, health is determined by social factors, education, employment, transportation, housing, and Legislator Rehel's program and reduce child poverty drastically, and in the past 4 or 5 years, and reduced from 29 to 19 this year. So it's a really collaborative efforts, and I just fortunately be part of it, and it's really your leadership here, and I'm thankful. And I wish I would be like this dog, and I can because I was not prepared. And also, last I want to point out, this item is not in the meeting agenda, so it's
Good? Heather Del Conte. I just want to mention, that is the first time that I think I've ever seen a Del Conte stand up here and not have anything to say. I'm done.
Thank you. In all the excitement, I did forget to ask for approval of the minutes for the regular May 12th meeting.
So moved.
Second. Any questions or corrections? Legislator.
Yes. At the last meeting, they said that we were going to approve them with the corrections, but I didn't see that mentioned in the minutes here. Were the corrections made?
Yeah, yes, they were. Yes, they were. Jen made them. You're welcome.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call on Legislator Cecilia for introduction of business.
Mr. Chairman, my pleasure that in our midst today is passed Legislator of the 18th District, Heather Del Conte, was here to support her son. Legislator Del Conte, would you please stand?
I would add that there's more than one son, too.
I said son.
Did you say son?
Did I say son?
Yes, Legislator, Del Conte was here for quite a while, been very active in the community, and that husband of hers is around here, he's kind of busy here too. I think he ran away. Anyway, moving now to public speakers on resolutions of the day. Okay, so this is comments related to the resolutions that we'll be discussing later. Patty Famolo, please come forward, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Patty Famolo. Maybe you can hear me too well. And I live in the town of Oswego. I'm here to speak to Resolution GC1 in your packet, which is allocating funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. I have been very interested in how Oswego County would use the $22 million it is receiving from the American Rescue Plan Act, which was signed into law by President Biden in March of 2021. Oswego County received the first half of this money, about $11 million, 1 year ago, in May of 2021. And the other half should be forthcoming. I don't know if it's arrived yet. In October of 2021, the county created the Office of Strategic Initiatives to oversee the administration of this money in compliance with the very complicated federal guidelines. This included the funding of 2 positions within that new office. Very little of the American Rescue money was spent in 2021, but a few appropriations were made, one to the Oswego Health for $500,000, and a few other appropriations to fund some part-time positions related to COVID at the health department. Today, the legislature will vote on a resolution that will fund 21 projects with American Rescue money, totaling roughly $3.4 million. I want to be excited about what the American Rescue Plan money can do for Oswego County. I really do. This $22 million and other funds available from other COVID relief packages, along with about, I think it was like a $3 million opioid settlement that the county received in September of 2021, has put Oswego County in a financial position to change the status quo in this community. But changing the status quo requires a lot of research and analysis to determine how to use the money effectively, how to determine priority areas, and implement evidence-based solutions. The devil, as they say, is in the details. The resolution today claims that a process for evaluating the needs in our county has been developed in consultation with various stakeholder groups. In addition, a task force has been named to review and recommend projects. I have been unable to locate when stakeholder meetings occurred, who is on the task force, and really very little information about how this process has included the community. The task force was appointed by Chairman Weatherup. I don't know who's on it. and I've tried to find that information. If you survey other counties and cities across the nation that are receiving the same kind of money from the American Rescue Fund, you'll find that they have advertised information sessions to the public, they've surveyed their residents, they've developed online resources, they've compiled executive summaries of how the monies will be spent based on a method analysis. They have published PowerPoint presentations and other information to explain what the American Rescue Plan is to all stakeholders. They have conducted meetings and posted meeting minutes. In short, the process has been transparent. It is not too late for Oswego County to engage in a similar process, to engage this community and invite this community to have some input about how this vital money will be spent. The process to date appears to have been behind closed doors, and it is in danger of devolving into political cherry picking. I don't want that to happen. I live in this county. I want to see it succeed. I'm a Democrat. Most of you are Republicans, but I still want to see this county succeed. So I don't want to say that every project that's being presented is not a good project, because I think some of them are. What I'm saying is I don't think the community knows enough about how this is being presented and what it can mean for this community to use this money correctly. So what I'd like to know is who's on the task force? Are there representatives from both parties? What priorities have been identified? Are there professionals from these priority areas on the task force? If you want to change the status quo, and I have to believe that you do, you have to do the hard work. You have to develop evidence-based process that is transparent and professional. You must depart from behind closed door, business as usual. And I sincerely hope that you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the resolution today? All right, thank you. Just before we're going to move on to government courts, small statement. Since the announcement of the ARPA funds last year by Washington, there's been tremendous discussion state and nationwide about the eligibility of projects that could be funded by this initiative. Last year, starting in May, Administrator Church, Community Planning and Development Director Dave Turner, and myself as Chairman of the County Legislature met with stakeholders, large and small business leaders, locally elected mayors and town supervisors to discuss the initiatives. From these meetings and discussions with county legislators, we developed a basic blueprint of how we would proceed and confirm eligibility for these programs, as we, the administration, would have to pay those funds back if it was determined by audit that the project was ineligible. In October of 2021, we took Dave Turner as an existing employee and asked him to be the Director of Strategic Initiatives to ensure compliance. We purchased software that was specific for vetting projects in the ARPA program, and we began assembling a task force that would be independent of political pressure. We were represented by financial professionals, minority women small business owners, countywide electeds, along with 2 legislators, both with economic development experience and business experience. After a review of the projects by the director and entering into the software, the projects were discussed, questioned, and rated by the task force, and ultimately presented to the jurisdictional committees that they fall under for more questioning, and ultimately discussion by interested legislators and a vote by the legislators on that committee. These committees included Human Services, Health, Economic Development, Infrastructure, and Public Safety, before progressing through finance and personnel, before returning here tonight to the Government and Courts Committee, and then here before the entire legislative body, ensuring that we as elected officials were able to discuss any and all projects multiple times. This represents the first round of funding. We're still taking applications, so contact your local legislator for an application, and this is also available online at the Oswego County website. Thank you. Resolution GC1 by Legislator Holt.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution for its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution allocating funds made available to the County of Oswego through the American Rescue Plan Act to certain sub-recipients and beneficiaries.
Okay, this is where the Swingle County has developed a process for the evaluation needs within the county that includes consultation of various stakeholder groups that are represented in the community at large. The county has received requests for financial support of individuals, organizations, and business throughout the county. Chairman of this body established a task force for that purpose, reviewing their proposals, making recommendations to the legislature for appropriate actions that are consistent with the eligibility and the use of guidance issued by the U.S. Treasury. And the Swingle County Legislature finds the disbursements identified in Schedule A, to be consistent with the intent of the ARDA and eligible under the guidance issued by the U.S. Treasury.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Legislator Shaw.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm looking for success on this. I have asked multiple times, until Fulton advertised, we didn't actually have an advertisement out. And when I asked Mr. Turner, he said it was word of mouth. How were the already approved funding projects companies notified and or invited to apply, and why was it not publicly known? And that there was funding available before the first round of projects were approved. Transparency is key in how these federally funded dollars are spent, and it seems that the process has been anything but transparent to this point. Is there a scoring matrix to determine the best use of dollars, and was that applied to already approved projects, or is this just going forward from the first round approved? How are they reviewed and approved and selected? And the level of overall goal impact is the program seeking to accomplish, and how are they ensuring the decisions are in alignment with those goals? I just feel this is hasty. I feel to lump them together is hasty, and I want nothing but success. But I'm for some of the projects, I'm not for some of the other projects, and I just feel we should vote on them individually.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Castillo.
I have to jump on board with Legislator Shaw, not that I have to, but I want to, in the fact that in one of the committee meetings I asked why there wasn't a minority person on the strategic planning committee, the task force, or anything like that. Second and most important part is right now, I believe, unless you're going to break it down more, you're going to ask us to vote and pass all of these as one lump right now. And that is strictly unacceptable. In fact, that the reason we're going to do that is because we don't want to have to be here all night. And I'm sorry, but the taxpayers pay us to represent them, and there are issues in here, and there are projects in here that I'm in favor of, and there's a lot of them that I'm not in favor of. But if you're going to ask me to vote on a lump to say, accept all of these, without breaking them down, say, human services, are you in favor of human services? And what ones on there are you in favor of? Are you in favor of infrastructure? What ones are you in favor of? You're not asking us to do that. It's kind of like another, not everybody knew about it. This past week, I checked with 3 businesses in the city of Fulton. Neither one of them had been contacted by anybody about this money. Not until I got in contact with them and gave them an application did they start to, apply to it? Now, I know that you said that you had meetings with the mayor, you had meetings with different people, but these three did not, and they're the three main restaurants in my district, did not have any knowledge of an application for this, how to process through it, and what to do. And I think that's, a travesty, because there are certain parts of this county that have lost a lot of money, and they weren't in this first round. That's not right. And if you're going to ask me to vote on all of these all at once, I can't be in favor of them, but there's some in there that I like, and I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry that you're doing what you're doing, and it's not right.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Carrasco.
Yeah, I need to abstain from this due to employment conflict.
Thank you. Is there any other abstentions? Legislator Klein?
Yes, one of these projects is, I have property within it, and I can't, I don't want to be any part of the loan.
Understood. Any other discussion? Legislator Rita.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. So, do we have the amended resolution? I don't have the amended resolution in front of me. It was after it was amended in F&P and then presented to government. Do we all have a copy? I don't have a copy of it. Do others?
It will be amended to this attachment.
Oh, that's the attachment.
There's no amendment to the resolution.
Has someone tallied, so there are now 17 projects, not 21, for the information of the public? And I didn't know that was part of the actual new resolution. And the actual total amount, $2.592 million. Thank you.
Yes, and just to be clear, there's a number of qualifying documents that they almost provide. In the absence of those documents, basically they don't get the money, then our share will be increased for our next round of funding. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Or wait, my fault. We need to amend this on the floor to include that attachment. So I'm looking for the amendment.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor of amending to the attachment? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 19 in favor, 1 opposed, 3 excused.
The amendment.
An abstention.
You can do the amendment. But now back to the amended resolution. We have some abstentions. There's no.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 17 in favor, 3 opposed, and 3 excused, and 2 abstained.
Thank you. Legislator Mangano.
Mr. Chairman and fellow legislators, the process to allocate the monies received from the American Rescue Plan was all new to us. I would like to take a minute to thank the task force, Dave Turner, and the legislature for working through applications, funding options, and allocations. A lot of time and hard work went into this, and it certainly shows. This is only the beginning of the process. I am confident that we will continue to work together for future projects. So again, I thank everyone for your continued work on this.
Thank you. Resolution GC2 by Legislator Holtz.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution, urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution establishing capital project number P02022, pictometry.
This is capital project, number 2022, geometry. Establishing the maximum authorization for $131,000. And the county treasurer will transfer $131,000 from capital reserve number 145 to technology capital 720.
Thank you. Any discussion? Legislator Castillo.
How many times are we going to have to renew this contract? I wasn't in favor of it when we put it into effect initially, and that's why I want to know how many times
The
we're
contract is
voting on it.
renewed through 23,
which is when the final flight will be made. Be up to the legislature whether they want to continue this service or not. This is the images that real property and assessors all use to
Code enforcement
Code
officers.
enforcement.
I understand who it's used by and I know what it's for, but 5 days after you take the picture, you know, it could be different. So that's why I'm not in favor of, when we initially put it in effect, I will not be in favor of it tonight.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Martine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can honestly say that I use this pictometry every single day. I deal with constituents every single day, direct them to this site so they can see and use this wonderful program that the county put together. I remember what it was like before, and I can honestly tell you that with this new pictometry, the way it's been done, you can go year to year and actually prove things that you need to prove to constituency, whomever. This is an amazing program, and I say I put my support behind this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Montgomery.
Mr. Chairman, I myself have used pictometry in the Code Enforcement Office in the city of Oswego while I was employed for that department. It has been an excellent tool for use in the department.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 1 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Moving now to public safety, PS1 by Legislator Burdick.
Chairman, I offer this resolution and recommend its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
A resolution adopting County of Oswego Local Law Number 5 of 2022 entitled, "A Local Law Establishing Non-Consensual Towing and Storage Fees for Towing Services Dispatched by the County."
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's a law that's been long in the waiting. I'm sorry that some of the people that came to speak about it were gone, but it addresses many of the issues that they were concerned with. I think that by passing this, it will alleviate. We've had multiple complaints from our constituents, from the police who respond and call the tow trucks, and then get complaints from the people later on about the fees they've been charged, and also the 911 gets multiple complaints as well. So I think this is going to give the sheriff and 911 the ability to enforce the regulations, to make it fairer for the tow truck operators and for the people who have their cars covered.
Thank you. Any discussion? Legislator Rita.
I'd like to ask a question of Attorney Mitchell. In the future, if there is found to be something that needs to be amended in the law, what's the process to actually amend the existing law?
Well, it's the same process as adopting the law. You would have to propose the amendment, schedule a public hearing, and then get comment, and then adopt the amendment.
So the point being, it can be changed, we just have to use the same process.
Doctrine of legislative equivalency, a local law can only be amended by another local law or repealed by another.
So if there are people that are extremely concerned or have very specific concerns about the law, they can try to get it to their legislator and they can have it changed if possible.
Correct. I would also note there were questions as to when the effective date is. It's 90 days after adoption, which should provide 911 and the sheriff enough time to get placards and things in place.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No further questions.
Thank you. Good points. Legislator Castillo.
Mr. Chairman, I'm on a committee, but you get questions as time goes on and as people speak, then you come up with different questions. So that's why I'm asking the questions now. If I'd have known them ahead of time, I would have asked them in committee. But there was a concern with the fact that a tow truck or an accident happens within the city, and the city police, if they don't have a designee, are they bound by this, or can they say, well, we'll call so-and-so? Are they going to be bound by this? That's one thing I need to know. And second, will there be a list of qualified tow companies put out so that we may be able to see it at some point in time after everything's put into effect? That's all I'm looking for. Because I know that in Fulton, it was a big to-do, like Mr. Bellinger brought up. An accident happened over on the west side of the river, and they pulled somebody out of Mattydale, I think was he said. and that's not right, but will they be bound by this? That's what I need to know. Will the city be bound by this, or is
Perhaps
this only
legislator.
if the county, if they call 911, say, we need a tow truck, but if the city cop says, well, I'll call, do you need a tow truck, and the guy says, yeah, he says, well, we'll call so-and-so. That's
Perhaps
what I need to know.
Legislator Greco or Mr. Cooley could answer that.
Prefer Mr.
Cooley?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but I believe that this would cover the cities as well.
It does, but it's only tow trucks that are non-consensual dispatched by 911. So if you're stuck at the end of your driveway and you call a towing company, it is not subject to this law. If the towing company is paid by an insurance company, it's not covered by this law. The municipality contracts with the towing company to enforce snow emergency bans on parking. That is outside of this because it's not dispatched by 911.
I would also like to point out, to his point and some of the others earlier, is that this requires the tow companies to give a legitimate business address and be bound by those legitimate business addresses that will be verified by the sheriff's department. And the nearest tow through the CAD system to that location will get the tow. So if somebody's getting towed home from the other side of the county, that will happen once this law is enacted.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that is 21 in favor, 1 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution PS2 by Legislator Greco.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution and recommend its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution appointing members to the Oswego County Fire Advisory Board for 2022.
Just renewing appointments and replacing some people on the fire advisory board.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution PS3 by Legislator Greco.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution and recommend its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution establishing capital project E0222 County Fire Vehicles and Equipment.
Yeah, this is to replace some rotting equipment, basically. The chassis are falling apart. You know, the salt up here is tying to even fire equipment, and it's got to be replaced.
Understood. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution PS4 by Legislator Greco.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution and recommend its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, stop DWI FFY 2022 High Visibility Engagement Campaign.
Yeah, this is $17,500 for the prevention of DWIs for the training by the Oswego County. From the Stop DWI Foundation.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution PS5 by Legislator Greco.
I offer this resolution and recommend its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution accepting grant from the Oswego County ATV Club, Inc. regarding enhanced ATV safety and enforcement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is $1,000 from the ATV Club that will be used towards enforcement and education.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution PS6 by Legislator Greco.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution and recommend its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Sheriff's Office, transfer from sale of equipment, Sheriff's Office, to Automotive Equipment Road Division.
Just as it reads, Mr. Chairman, they've sold some equipment and they'd like to use that money to put it back into their vehicles.
Yes. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution PS7 by Legislator Greco.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution and recommend its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing the Swiggle County Emergency Management Office to accept funding from the Walmart Community Grant Program.
Yeah, this is 3 grants totaling $1,750 that will be earmarked for our drone program that is supported. and support from the suppliers.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Moving now to the Health Services Committee, Resolution HS1 by Legislator Rehill.
Human Services Committee, right?
Human.
Thanks.
My mispronunciation.
I am a human. Thank you very much.
Yes, you are, sir.
For the following resolution, urges adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing budget modification, Youth Bureau, additional 2022 New York State Youth Development Program funds.
This is in the amount of $12,751 to accept and disperse.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HS2 by Legislator Rehill.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing budget modification, Youth Bureau, 2022 New York State Sports and Education Opportunity Funds.
It's in the amount of $9,458.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HS3 by Legislator Rehill.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing restructure of DSS employment and training.
This has to do with SUNY Oswego no longer being willing to manage the Workforce Development Board. This restructure will bring that in-house and will integrate our local Workforce Development Board, or WFDB, which is a mandatory committee, into our local services. It'll retain our access to the Federal Workforce Innovation Act, or WIOA funding, and will create efficiencies and allow for some seamless services provided through our career center and one stop.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HS4 by Legislator Rehill.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing budget modification, Department of Social Services to accept Raise the Age state grant.
This state grant is in the amount of $650,000, 100% state funding.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HS5 by Legislator Rehill.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution awarding professional services contract RFP 22-OFA-003 curb-to-curb transportation service.
This is a service that is going to replace Haul and Ride. There was one respondent to the RFP, OCO, who was already the previous vendor. If there are any overages during this period of the contract service, overages were going to come out of the OFA's unmet needs funding. There's no budget impact, and this retains an important service.
Thank you. Any discussion? Legislator Castillo.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not against the service. I'm not voting against the service on this. I am not thrilled with the agency that's going to do the service. I'm looking over the process, and I see that, yes, we did it in the paper, we did it on BidNet, we did the Swiggle County website, but the only agency that we sent anything out to was OCO. And I know there are at least 2 other medical transports within Oswego County that might be able to do this, and they might have been able to bid on it. And having any service that I've seen before with OCO, I've always been that they are not supplying the service that they should be supplying. They I understand that in the past 2 or 3 years, we have increased our transportation to the rural areas, and that's great, and I'm happy with that. I think Legislator Chesbro's done an excellent job with that, with getting that out there, but I'm not happy with OCO doing curb to curb, because I've heard too many horror stories where you get on the bus at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning for a 10 and 11 o'clock appointment, and your day is shot. And I'm hoping that this will improve, but for right now, I'm not going to be in favor of this. I hope it does improve, but I don't feel that it will. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I know at committee there was multiple discussions about that, how service has improved, but any other discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 20 in favor, 2 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HS6 by Legislator Reham.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution in urgent adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution approving appointment of Director of Veteran Services.
I met him this afternoon. I was able to interview him on the telephone and was very impressed with Mr. Eric Boozer. He did a good job providing us starting the Pledge of Allegiance today as well. And uniquely enough, his first day of work needs to be amended in this resolution to July 4th. So for a patriotic day to appoint a good veteran to be our new Director of Veteran Services. So I believe I need a second on amending.
Second. Motion made, multiple seconds. Any discussion on the amendment to appoint Mr. Boozer on July 4th? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused on the amendment.
All right, back to the original. You're not quite there yet, sir. Any other discussion on appointing Mr. Boozer as Veterans Director? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Now you can thumbs up. Thank you. Moving now to Economic Development Planning Committee. Legislator Stahl with EP1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring this resolution forward and I urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing the creation of one position in the Community Development, Tourism, and Planning Department.
As you heard a little bit earlier, about 6 months ago, we did move what was then our Director of Community Development to the Director of Strategic Initiatives. That opened up a space for a director at Community Development. Spent about 6 months trying to find that individual. Ultimately, we're not able to. Also, kind of realized over time that there would be the ability to potentially have a savings here and bring in another person to handle the day-to-day at Community Development, with that person ultimately reporting to the Strategic Initiatives Office. And so the plan is, and what we'll put forward here, would be to create a position called Deputy Director of Community Development and Tourism. You see the pay there would be a savings. It's below what we originally had budgeted, as we were expecting to put a director in that position. So about a $30,000 savings for this year's budget, and then obviously going forward as well. And that is my resolution.
Thank you. Any discussion? Legislator Rita.
Is it in everybody's packet, the resolution?
It's out of order. It's
after. Thank you very much, sir.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution EP2 by Legislator Stahl, who gave up his kid's baseball game.
It got rained out. Good day, I got rained out. All right. I bring this resolution forward and I urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing an extension of the contract for mobility management services between Oswego County and the Volunteer Transportation Center, Inc.
So we've been utilizing this VTC company for a couple of years now. They've been really doing an excellent job I also want to take an opportunity here to thank Legislator Chesbro as well for all the work she's put in with this group. But they are currently working, and technically there was an issue, I guess, with the contractual piece of it. We are fixing that here to extend them through the end of this year as they are currently working through the end of this year. And that will be the resolution.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Moving on now to Health Day, Legislator Crassick with HE1.
Mr. Chairman, fellow legislators, I present the following resolution for your consideration.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution for setting up an interdepartmental MOU between the Health Department and the Sheriff's Department.
So anyone that's been to the Health Department recently through COVID and continuing, the door that's unlocked is the main. That uses the door for vaccines, immunizations, clinics, and there is always a deputy there. We do not have a permanent agreement with the Sheriff's Department to do that. It is needed. Obviously, as a county, we're looking at safety protocols, and this building is in the same situation. So this will be an agreement that will allow to keep that deputy at that front desk.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HE2 by Legislator Crassick.
Mr. Chairman, fellow legislators, I present the following resolution for your consideration.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution appointing members to the Oswego County Traffic Safety Board.
This is standard. We have 3 people on there, and they will be joining the traffic safety.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HE3 by Legislator Crassick.
Mr. Chairman, fellow legislators, I present the following resolution for your consideration.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution making appointment to ensure continuity of leadership at the Health Department.
So obviously tonight, you're aware that Doc is leaving us. It is going to take some time because he never takes vacation. So even though he'll be retiring the last 19 months, no, what is it, like 3 weeks? Almost 3 weeks of vacation will be used. So we cannot put a replacement in at that time. We need an intern director to ensure the continuity of all the programs. The Health Department is a vital service to this county, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a full service. So the name selected is a qualified candidate with a master's, fully capable of stepping into this position and keeping the ship floating upright and going forward, and that is Vera Dunsmore.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I think Vera is with us tonight.
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
She is pretty lucky back there.
She is, yeah, I guess. She has assured me that she's going to do a stellar job. And I assured her that I was going to hold her feet to the fire.
Resolution HE4 by Legislator Crassick.
This one's a little bit more difficult. HE4, I present this resolution for your consideration.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing the preparation and filing of the closure plan for the New York State Department of Health regarding hospice.
So we've reached a point with our hospice program that due to mainly salary of what we pay our nurses, they have been resigning. In fact, I was just become aware today that we lost another LPN in the health department due to wages. It's difficult to compete against what the private industry is doing. I had an opportunity to have a test done, very minor. I recognized the nurse. I asked her if she was working part-time there and still at the health department. She told me no, that they offered her $20 an hour more than her salary in Oswego County. So we have got to a point that we no longer would be able to take on any patients. I think our current is 6. We have 6. We are not abandoning the program. We are filing a closure plan with the state. This does buy us time, that if all the stars aligned and nurses applied, if we found a way to try to make this a better job, we can pull that closure plan back at any moment just with a phone call and retain the hospice program. At this point, that is being serviced by other nurses in the health department to take care of the 6 people that we are not going to walk away from them. We are going to be with them through the end of stage of life as we committed when we took them on as patients. So it's a very difficult decision to make. The alternative is, if we do not have a plan and we do not meet the requirements, the state can come in and say, you're done. And then that does not open the door for us for any length of time that we can look at this with a different set of eyes. No promises here. It's a rough decision. It's hard on this county. We have an award-winning hospice program, one of the top rated in the United States. Is it worth saving? Yes. Can we do it? That is totally unknown at this moment. But we need to file the plan so that we can look at a plan and then make a decision whether we're going to be in the business of providing hospice or we're going to just give that to someone else.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Castillo.
I'll relinquish the legislator Shachter
Refer to Legislator Shachter.
for the moment, and I'll
Stay with me, Legislator Shachter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that it clearly states here that we need to pay more to these workers, nurses, to ensure we retain them.
Thank you. Legislator Castillo.
Like Legislator Chris would say, this is very, very hard, and it's kind of near and dear to my heart right now, in the fact that 6 or 7 years ago, there was, in the process of closing the hospice program then, in committee, and it was because they didn't have patients, and they were losing money. At that time, the health committee said, well, let's start focusing on getting more patients. And within 2 or 3 years, that hospice program, like Mr. Legislator Carrassi said, became in the top 5% in the country. Not the state, not the region, but in the country. And therefore, it's hard for us to say, I understand what we have to do today, and I understand that we will go through with it. But this is another case of, if we don't get into the 21st century, we're going to keep losing good, qualified people. And I know people say, well, it's the union, and that's what our situation is. Well, we have to get an understanding that there are different grades of pay, and there are different categories that we need people in. And this is one of them that is not something that a nurse takes lightly and takes on. It's not a program that everybody jumps on board with. And we need that program back here in the county under our control. But I understand what we're going to do today is something that has to be done so that we still have control of it. And I thank the young lady that we just appointed was in charge of that hospice program when she brought it to the top 5%. So I have no doubt in my mind that she's going to do a great job where she is. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HE5 by Legislator Kress.
Mr. Chairman, fellow legislators, present the following resolution for your consideration.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution for the reclassification of the Healthy Families Program Manager position from SPHN to Coordinator of the program.
So this is a position that we need to refill as quickly as we can, and we do have someone in-house that is able to do that. So it's really a movement over to the Healthy Families Program, which, as you heard tonight from Doc, has been a very successful program in this county.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Moving now to Infrastructure, Facilities, and Technology, Legislator Wilmot with IT1.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution awarding professional services contract RFP 22-BG-007 cooling water tower maintenance.
This, we had 5 bidders. It's being awarded to Gemco Water Treatment. It's $7,800, up to $7,800 per year, and Gemco was rated the highest on that process.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Resolution IT2 by Legislator Wilmot.
I offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution establishing capital project number 0422, earth capital repairs.
Yep, this is for mostly boiler tube replacements out of the energy recovery facility, which is breaking the heater right now, and it's also for some other miscellaneous maintenance works and electrical work.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Moving now to Resolution IT3 by Legislator Wilmot.
I offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
With pleasure. A resolution dedicating the Public Safety Center to Rural Todd.
Yep, we're going to dedicate the Public Safety Center to Will Todd, who served many years as the sheriff in this county. I'm proud to say I'm a personal friend of his, and I was a neighbor for many, many years.
Thank you. We have a roll call vote, please.
Michael Yerden.
Yes.
Herbert Yerden.
Yes.
Edward Gilson.
Yes.
David Folst.
Yes.
Roy Rehel.
Yes.
John Martino.
With great pleasure, yes.
Frank Lombardo.
Yes.
Paul House.
Yes.
James Weatherup.
Yes.
Mary Ellen Chesbro.
Absolutely.
Linda Lockwood.
Yes.
Richard Klein.
Absolutely.
Patrick Twist has been marked excused. Stephen Walpole has been marked excused, and Nathan Emmons excused. James Scanlon.
Yes.
Laura Nagano.
Absolutely.
Robert Wilmot.
Yes.
Marie Schott.
Yes.
Tim Stahl.
Yes.
Noel Samuelson.
Yes.
James Karasik.
Yes.
Michael Soloway.
Yes.
Mark Greco.
Yes.
Frank Castilia.
Most positively, yes.
Mr. Chairman, that is 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving now to Finance and Personnel, Resolution FD1 by Legislator Martino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have this resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution awarding custodial trustee services for the Oswego County Deferred Compensation Plan.
Yes, as you know, we've gone through and put out the RFPs on this, and this is to be in compliance with New York State IRS codes and laws, which we are now there. That's it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 22 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 excused.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business? Legislator Castillo.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to know what is happening with the investigation or the study that we're doing with DSS. I know that the committee or a task force that has been formed to look it over. Have anything been brought forward, or none of us Democrats were on that task force, so I'm asking.
Still ongoing investigation on both fronts. Both entities that are looking at this, still ongoing. Anything else under unfinished business? Any miscellaneous business? Legislator Castillo.
Mr. Chairman, with the loss of lives in Texas and Buffalo, it is time we take action to protect our school children here in Swiggle County as much as we can. Therefore, I am charging the chairman of the legislature to appoint a task force to look into the possibility of connecting all the 9 school district security cameras with the E911 center and the sheriff's department. I make a motion to do this and ask for a roll call vote on it. Making a motion.
We have a second. Seconded by Legislator Schott. This is out of order, Legislator Castillo.
It's a motion on the floor. Ask Rich if we have to move on it or not, sir.
Okay.
Not on the agenda.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I have the floor?
Yes.
How is it that we can vote on something that we don't have a resolution or a plan for?
Well, that is
It's
a good
not on the
point.
agenda.
Although I'm in favor conceptually of what Legislator Castillo has offered, I think there needs to be discussion with the people that would implement that program before we make that motion. But Legislator Gurr.
I agree, Mr. Chairman, and I think further discussion is needed on the issue before we move forward.
Thank you. Legislator Rio.
Legislator Castillo should bring it to majority leader and bring it to committee, the appropriate committee.
I believe so, yes. Legislator Castillo.
I can't believe that I'm asking to do something to protect the children of this county. Now, it's not out of order. There was a motion on the floor. And yes, Rich has told you you have to vote on it. And yes, the task force that you would, make up would have the discussions as to with the different agencies that are going to be involved in it. All I'm looking for is us to form a task force to look into the feasibility, not to do it, but the feasibility of making it possible. We have to stop these people in the parking lot, not at the door. And not when they get inside the building. I know. I've seen the school. I know what the cameras are like. You have to stop them in the parking lot. And if you're going to vote against this tonight, I just can't believe it. I'm begging you to vote in favor of this feasibility study to look into the possibility of what we can do to protect our children better than what we have already.
Thank you. Have you discussed this with any of the law enforcement professionals or Mr. Cooley or anyone?
No, I haven't, sir. I have
Thank
talked
you.
with the
Lauren,
superintendent of the
Legislator
Fulton
Van
City
Gaal.
School District about it.
Mr. Chairman, may I please have the floor? I will speak on behalf of this legislature to say I don't disagree that we need to take a look at this. However, it needs to be brought with proper procedure to the committees. Once brought to the committees and for further discussion, then it would be worthwhile for a vote.
Thank you. Legislator Schott.
Mr. Chairman, many times we have had 1 to 2 minutes to look at items that are brought to us before a meeting. So I don't find it that unfair to consider it as if he's asking for a feasibility study, not to vote on it tonight.
Thank you. Legislator, no, passes. Legislator Salmon.
I would just like to say that Legislator Castillo, it would have been great if it was that important that you brought it to the public safety meeting last week. then we could have really prepared ourselves, maybe came up with something formal so that we could actually do something instead of just feel-good language.
Thank you.
I can't believe that.
Any other discussion? Legislators Kevin.
Yes, I'm a little confused that I don't think what he asked for originally is what he's asking for now, and what Marie is asking for. You know, I don't, that's why it should be ready. I just don't understand why he's asking now. It's a suggestion to take it. You know, that's not what we start out as.
Thank you. Legislator Regal.
There is an appropriate order for the actions of this legislature to take. And that appropriate action is to present some good ideas to you, to the opposing leader of the caucus, to bring it to the appropriate committee so that we can begin whatever research we're going to research. This is nothing more than grandstanding today for the camera, for the press. What the sheriff has done at the schools that have had it, they have a security officer now at those schools. It may be a great idea, but bring it through the appropriate channels. Otherwise, we're going to have the minority hijacking every single meeting from here on out to say, I have a motion that I'm going to try to embarrass everyone with. And this is going to go on and on for every meeting we have until the end of time. This is out of order, it's inappropriate, it should be taken through the appropriate processes for this legislature to move it forward, period.
Legislator Greco.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that I think we all share Mr. Castiglia's concerns on school safety, and I think that the sheriff is taking some appropriate action. Of course, we can take a better look at it, see if there's anything else that we can do, but I think that, like Mr. Riedel has said, should be done in the proper course of action at the proper time.
Thank you. Legislator Castillo.
You know, if you call for grandstanding, I'm a little bit tired of that because I looked at term up one time and you have to look at it. I'm not looking to move myself up in my program or in my party anywhere, okay? What I'm looking for is I'm looking for something to be moved and moved quickly. The longer you wait, the longer it's going to take. And if we have to go through a committee to form an advisory and to look into what the feasibility is of what it's going to cost us and whether we're going to do it or not. I don't understand what I changed. I asked for you to form a strategic planning committee to see what the advisory is going to be. Can you do it or can't you do it? How much is it going to cost? When is it going to be able to go into effect? If we don't start it now, school starts in September. This is the end of the school year. We have to start it now. And yes, we have SRO officers, but they're not on the cameras all day long. They're not. They're out walking around. We need those SRO officers walking around the school district, talking to the students. That is, you know, their job is to sit and look at a camera. We need somebody designated looking at a camera to sense E911. We can't lose a second whenever they're going to start coming into the door. It just has to stop. And I'm not grandstanding. I'm asking for somebody to do something.
Thank you. I saw Under Sheriff John Toomey had his hand up. Do you have input?
I don't know that it needs to be done here. It's a phone call to our office. We meet with the superintendents on a regular basis. The sheriff has done anything and everything he can in the schools. It's one of his main priorities since he came in office. And we'd be more than glad to have our SRO coordinator reach out to all the superintendents and start looking into it. Report back to the Public Safety Committee. We're open for a phone call anytime they give a suggestion like that, and we welcome those suggestions. I don't know that it needs to be a legislative process or not, but like I said, a phone call would initiate that and get started on tomorrow morning.
Thank you. It's good points. Perhaps Legislator Castillo would amend to refer to committee?
No. No, I did that once before, and I got backdoored. I'm not doing it now. We're voting on it tonight, okay?
Well, Legislator Reed.
There's no way you should allow this to happen. It'll happen every single meeting from now on.
That's
Call the question.
Legislator Castillo, you mentioned that you stand on principle and procedure every month, and here you are going against principle and procedure. Legislator Brown.
Mr. Chairman, again, I think we all share his concern and his emotional outburst. But I think it's something we should all be emotional about. But I think this can be addressed at the Public Safety Committee. Of course, at times, the sheriff has just stated, and I don't think we need a special task force.
Would I take that to mean that you would make your own personal guarantee that that would be discussed in public safety?
I would give you a guarantee that we will have that conversation in public safety and move forward at the committee level.
That's what I meant.
So,
Yes.
everyone agrees.
Yes, thank you. Legislator Montgomery. No, pass?
Yeah, I'll pass.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor,
Call for roll call votes.
roll call vote.
I refuse to vote.
It's not working, is it?
It's out of order. Show me as absent. Show me as absent, please.
Hang on a second.
I left the meeting. I'm not moving. This is going to happen every single meeting for the rest of the time.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Yes.
May I call a recess?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. I believe we have, well, first, call us back in order. I believe we have everybody that's coming back in. Legislator Montgomery.
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend the motion of Legislator Castelia. And please note that we do not take the safety of our children lightly, and that we will be moving this, amending to move this task force to be in control of the Public Safety Committee.
I second.
All right, so we have a motion to amend to move it to committee and second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
You didn't ask for any comment on that, Mr. Chairman. She made a motion to amend it. You didn't ask for comments. You just went right to a vote. And I'm sorry, but before she even went to make the amendment, you had already called for a vote. So she is out of order and asking for it after you had called for a vote.
Legislator Castelia, you are out of order for not following procedure of the floor.
There you go. Moving now to, we've done miscellaneous.
You got to vote on the original motion.
We motion as amended.
Right.
Okay. Roll call vote on motion to amend.
Motion
Motion as amended to move it to appropriate committee. Right.
Michael Yurden.
Yes.
Herbert Yurden. Edward Gilson.
Yes.
David Holst.
Yes.
Roy Rehill is left, not excused. John Martino.
Yes.
Frank Bombardo.
Yes.
Paul House.
Yes.
James Weatherup.
Yes.
Mary Ellen Chesbro.
Yes.
Linda Lockwood.
Yes.
Richard Klein. Patrick Twist has been marked excused. Stephen Walpole's been marked excused. Nathan Evans has been marked excused. James Scanlon.
Yes.
Laura Nagano.
Yes.
Robert Wilmot.
Yes.
Marie Schad.
Yes.
Tim Stahl.
Yes.
Noel Samuelson.
Yes.
James Karasik.
Yes.
Michael Soloway.
Yes.
Mark Greco.
Yes.
Frank Castelia. Mr. Chairman, that is 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Moving now, Mr. Mitchell.
I request a motion to go into executive session to discuss the matter of County of Oswego and Addis Ethanol Fulton tax foreclosure.
Second motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. We are adjourned, but we do have public comment period as we do every meeting. So these are unrelated to the resolutions, but public comment. You wish to speak? Patty Family. Again, thank you. You had 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Again, Patty Famelo, I have a lot to say tonight, sorry. Town of Oswego. On Wednesday, May 25th at 9:55 a.m., I sent an email to every legislator here and some that aren't here. The previous day, my grandson had registered for kindergarten here in Oswego County, and I will never forget it because it was the same day as the massacre at the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. When I emailed all of you, I was devastated, desperate to do more than I had been doing to bring about an end to gun violence. I had done some advocacy. I had donated to groups trying to find solutions to end gun violence. I had written letters to my congressional representatives to work harder on this issue, which the CDC recently reported, even prior to this latest rash of shootings, and one today, that firearms are now the leading cause of death among children and adolescents in the United States. Death by firearm. Chilling. So I was thinking, instead of waiting for the elected officials in Congress to do something, I would ask my local, county, and state officials what they thought about this issue. Grassroots, from the bottom up. Maybe that's how we have to do this, rather than top down. My email to you said this: I am interested in your individual views on how we can solve the problem of gun violence. I am calling upon every elected official in my reach to do more to solve this problem. As a leader in Oswego County, how would you go about solving this problem in our community? And I signed my name, my email address, and 2 phone numbers. And I'd like to ask Marie Schock to stand and take a bow so that I can personally thank her for responding to my email in a thoughtful, courteous manner with some good ideas. Thank you, Marie. Marie was the only legislator in this chamber that responded to my email. Mark Greco, who represents my district, I did not respond to my email or to my phone message that I left for him. I've spoken with other people in this community who have had similar experiences when they try to contact their county legislator. I don't think it's just me, but this is not good news. How in the world can we address any issue if our elected officials won't engage with their constituents and shut down their fellow legislators tonight? What I saw with a reasonable request to this body, I thought, was hijacked by the other party instead of hijacked by the 2 Democrats that could not hijack anything in this county. So please, do not write me off. I have lived in this community for 46 years. My husband and I both worked for Oswego County and retired in good standing with exemplary work records. Look it up. We have raised 3 children here. We paid our taxes. We've never been arrested. I don't think we have a traffic violation. We do our best to be a good neighbor, and we contribute to this community. So I'm going to ask you for your courtesy, because this gun violence problem, I've not done enough, you've not done enough, none of us have done enough, and it is coming for Oswego. Oswego County, their schools, their supermarkets, Harbor Fest. It's coming for us just like the COVID pandemic. So please, respond to desperate constituents who are looking for your leadership and try to lead them. Thank you.
Could we have now Shauna Reddick?
Maybe the one on the county website.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Compassion, love, and understanding are very important qualities to have. Those are just a few reasons on why we come up here to speak to you on behalf of Jordan. A social media post that was shared had upset many people. It said, "It always amazes me how people love to play armchair quarterback with a tragedy. Hearts are so hard, grace is nowhere to be found. Humility is far from present. Please, folks, with all honesty, if you can do it better, then please get out from in front of your computer and actually do something." Challenge given, gauntlet played. I'm not here to criticize the poster. I'm here to help him and others who think the same way to understand better. There's always a chance of someone not being sincere of their concern on what happened to Jordan Brooks, but even hardened criminals have a soft spot for children. Most people love kids other than their own. I understand how hard it can be to comprehend the great love and empathy people have for mankind, especially when it comes to children, the disabled, and the elderly. A specific group of people understand the pain and suffering of Jordan, those who have been abused themselves. We may not all have experience to the extent that Jordan has, but we do know how abuse feels. It hurts our bodies and our minds, not being able to tell and not getting help when a problem is noticed. We have a deeper understanding of pain and suffering. It hurts our hearts, and I say we as I've had my own share of experiences. Humility and grace were mentioned, that it was nowhere to be found. I respectfully disagree. Humility is there if you choose to see it. Humility is defined as a low or modest view of one's importance. We can't do it better. We know that we are not as qualified as you, the legislator, or the state leaders. That's why we come to you, to ask, to plead for change, to do what's right. Grace is a disposition or to act on kindness, courtesy, leniency, mercy, and a temporary exemption. Grace is showing those traits to someone else when they don't deserve it. We waited with grace and hope for years, depending on those workers in the county, you, DSS Commissioner, and caseworkers, that things would change after the murder of Aaron Maxwell. It's hard to maintain grace when history repeats itself. This time it was worse. Are you still having trouble understanding how many of us feel? Try this. Read up on everything Jordan has endured, if you haven't already. Think about every open sore, the painful infections, also the exposed bone, muscle, and hip implant, sometimes rubbing on his chair, every hunger pain, sitting in a soiled diaper for days, smelling his own urine all day, breathing problems and vomiting frequently, limbs incredibly stiff from not being moved, sleeping in his chair and not a bed. Can you imagine the pain? What about mental pain? The stress, the worries, pushing through his pain. Not knowing his thoughts, I'm sure he was tired of being mistreated, neglected, and dirty. Wondering if anyone really cares and how much longer could this go on, wondering when the torture will end. Do you have a real clear picture? Imagine if that was you, your child, and someone you knew or loved. Do you have grace and humility? We tend to talk about being the bigger person. What does that entail? CPS, Stacey Albert, our leaders, anyone, the bigger person admits to things whether a mistake or not, and then does everything to fix it. Some of us have admitted to problems in our lives and our family dynamics and personal problems. Why is the agency or anyone above having issues admitting to theirs? That's one reason respect is lost from the public. I'm starting to see the bigger picture with caseworkers needing more pay. They do. You gave an extra hour of work and no raise. More crushing hours for them. Since more are leaving, you will end up having blood on your hands. It will be harder for caseworkers who want to do their job right. Less chance of a thorough investigation. They will feel rushed and pressured to get it done ASAP, and then on to the next responsibility. There will be no time rushing to poor judgments, assessments, rash decisions in a case. More kids improperly removed, more left in dire situations, higher chance of more lawsuits and debt. You can't make good decisions or remember everything when rushed. We all know that. And what happens when something goes wrong? Will any of you or Stacey take responsibility, or will you throw CPS under the bus? And do they get all the blame? Words matter, so do actions. Do you take time to think about what's said, or are your minds already made up? What are you listening with? Ears, heart, or both? You need both to make wise and appropriate decisions. I'm asking for change. I'm asking justice for Jordan, not just with his parental associations, but the department as well. I'm asking you to help the caseworkers. They need your help. Please don't risk children's safety. I ask in hope that our words matter to you. Your actions matter to us. As someone else has said, challenge given, gauntlet laid. I ask humbly and sincerely to make the necessary changes to make things right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Law. Good evening. You have 5 minutes.
I don't know if I can read as fast as she did. Is this working?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I got a librarian's voice. I'm Mary Lowe. I live in the town of Oswego. I'm here to ask you, what can you do to help save innocent lives in our corner of the world on Lake Ontario? What will you do as leaders of Oswego County to help turn around our country's frightening, growing pattern of gun violence? Gun violence, mass shootings, they're happening in the U.S. more often and with deadlier consequences than ever before. In the 1970s, an average of 8 people died each year in a mass shooting during that decade. For the decade up to 2019, that number jumped to an average of 51 deaths a year. Now, just this last month, we've had more than half of that number die. It's going through the roof. I can almost hear some of you thinking already, if you're still awake. This sounds like more anti-gun stuff. What does she know about hunting or gun culture? What does she think we can do? Mass shootings are awful, but guns are not the problem. There's no way I can consider supporting stricter gun laws with all the anti-safe signs in my district. As horrific as gun violence and suicides are, it's the state government, federal government's responsibility to make those laws, not mine. Well, please hear me out. First, I'm not anti-gun. I have family members and friends who hunt, some very seriously. No one I know wants to take everyone's guns away. On the contrary, when I see ordinary Ukrainians taking up arms to fight for the very existence of their country, it's clear that having more citizens familiar with guns and willing to use arms can be essential. But today's gun violence and mass shootings feel like another epidemic in our country. Can shootings happen here in Oswego? Given our county's high rates of poverty, unemployment, child abuse, you know the list of all kinds of factors that make life too hard for many. Of course it can happen here. A year ago, remember, in our own Mexico Town Park, when a 12-hour standoff with a suicidal man caused the Mexico school and BOCES to go into lockdown. That ordeal didn't turn into a murder spree, but lockdown alone was traumatic for everyone involved. What do I think you can do? I think we in America, including you in this room, absolutely need to change extreme elements of our gun culture. The other day I heard a man react against stricter gun regulations. He said, after a gun incident, people want to go after guns. Guns are not the problem. It's the people who misuse the guns. They're the problem. When there's a car accident, we don't blame the cars. We blame the driver. Well, that's an interesting idea, isn't it? If we would pay attention to gun users as much as we do to drivers, then gun users would need to pass a test and get a license in order to use any gun. Gun owners' license would need to be renewed periodically. All guns would be licensed and registered. Gun users would have to have insurance against accidents. And if gun owners showed behavioral problems, they, like a WDY driver, would lose all their gun rights for a year and probably be put on probation. The fact is, with the more guns there are in the country, the more mass shootings and gun deaths there are. We Americans own far more guns than any other country in the world, twice as many as the next one, and that's the Falklands, for Pete's sake. And have you seen that graph that compares the number of mass shootings in the US with other developed countries? In the 20 years up to 2019, 2019, we had 101 mass shootings. The next highest was France with 5, Canada 4, Finland 3, and the others 2 and 1. We are an astonishing international outlier in the number of guns and in gun violence. If you think you can't consider changes to gun safety laws because too many voters won't support you, what then? What can or should you do? I want to make 2 points. First, just by being in this legislature, you are the very ones who can and should act. You wouldn't be here if you weren't interested in the well-being and safety of this community. And you wouldn't or shouldn't be here if you don't think you have the skills to find solutions to difficult problems. Second, gun violence is very complicated. It's related to layers and layers of social, economic, and educational issues. A few stricter gun laws alone aren't going to move the needle much. On the one side, we hear about the right for individuals to bear arms. The fact is that Americans want to be free to own arms. But Americans also expect to have the freedom for all of us to live in a safe, productive society. To balance these two freedoms, you need to ensure you're listening to all sides. Today's polls tells us that most Americans by far want more control. They want safer schools. Even NRA members are, and I don't know if I trust that poll. I'd have to look into that. But at any rate, I can understand if you think the county level is not the one to make the laws to govern gun violence. We happen to live in a state that is passing stricter gun laws right now after the horrific shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde. But that doesn't get you off the hook entirely. Just last week, New York County passed a red flag law, even before the state passed a similar one. County legislators can act. You should not wait for the state and national politicians to make our communities safer. If you decide you don't need to make gun safety laws at the county level, you still, I think, have the responsibility of helping to create a different gun culture that makes school children and all of us safer. We look to you and our public safety personnel to model, support, and enforce the best gun safety regulations possible. If you need motivation, remember these two facts. Our country has the second highest rate of suicide by firearms in the entire world. And guns are now killing more of our young people than cars. Other countries have succeeded in reducing gun violence, have much to teach us. Australia has a gun culture based on rugged individualism, much like ours. And after a shooting spree in 1996 that killed or wounded 58 people, federal and state politicians listened to the angry, desperate demands of their constituents, and they came together to pass gun safety laws. That set of laws reduced Australia's mass shootings from 11 in a 10-year period to 3 in a 25-year period. Think of that. If you legislators at our county, state, and federal level do not make changes now, after the bloodiest May on record, changes that significantly reduce the number of American gun deaths, those deaths will continue to rise exponentially. And it will look like you don't care or you're not paying attention, and I don't believe you don't care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Stephanie Stone. In the interest of fairness, try to keep it near 5 minutes. That'd be great.
I will.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank the ones of you who are left behind to actually listen to us this evening. When I walk back in here and I see all these empty seats, it really disgusts me that some people left before we, the people, got to speak. That wasn't really nice of them. Not a good thing. But anyways, I've been coming to these meetings and speaking at them for a few months about DSS, CPS. I'm sure you all recognize me by now. I realized that I never really got a chance to introduce myself. Well, my name is Stephanie Stone. I've lived in Constantia for about 15 years. I hold a respectable position within a local employer, and I also own and operate my own personal business. I'm a law-abiding citizen, I pay my taxes, and I make contributions to my community through various organizations I belong to. I have always had a good understanding and respect for CPS and the job that they did, is that they were dealing with children who were in unfortunate situations. I felt this up until about a year and a half ago when CPS entered my life. What I went through, what I witnessed, was disturbing and unsettling. As I began to reach out within my community, and I found out that I wasn't alone. The stories I was hearing mirrored what I was going through. We all experienced the lies from CPS, the falsified records they were submitting to court, and in some cases, the removal of children from homes that were without just cause. Once Jordan Brooks' death became public, and I started to dig deeper, I knew it was time for me to step up and speak out, as my efforts until that time were falling on deaf ears. No attorney would even talk to me or take a case as soon as I said CPS. I have spoken to people at the Syracuse Regional Office who oversees CPS. They blew me off several times. The commissioner nor the governor even thought I was worthy to respond to me in my multiple letters I had written to them. No one would talk to me. If I was lucky enough to get someone to talk to me, a few words, I kept on hearing the same thing over and over. Their office wasn't responsible for CPS. I had to go down another avenue. When I went down that avenue, they weren't responsible for CPS, and nope, no one would talk to me about family court either. When I asked these people, well, where can I go? Who can I talk to? What help can I get? Who will listen? I got very vague answers. No one would give me any concrete department to look at, someone to call, someone to help. Not only me, but the people within this community. Last month, I spoke about the black and white proof I have about 2 caseworkers and the director of CPS who have lied to me. This is just the tip of the iceberg, just the tip of the iceberg. They have violated HIPAA laws. They have held hearings without advising the respondents what was going on. And they submitted false documentations to the courts, to which every one of these I have proof of. Not just my word against their proof. My question is, why when I have been knocking on so many doors, why have they been closing every time I want to present this information about them? Is it because it's true, they're above the law, they can do what they please and they're not held accountable? Or is it that when I go to show this proof to someone, no one wants to deal with it? There are massive problems within CPS. It is going to be a huge undertaking to correct this agency, which needs to start from the top all the way down to the caseworkers. It's not just one person, it's multiple. I've worked with 3 caseworkers throughout this year and a half. 1 out of the 3 did their job. They were a bully. I was a little intimidated, but you know what? I sat back and she did her job. She needed answers. The other 2, please. I can't even go down that road. But until somebody takes us serious, myself and everyone else who has been through this system, until they take us serious and listen to our allegations, we can all expect to hear about more deaths within our community. all of you here today can take the steps to clean up this agency and protect our children. I'm not confident that the current investigations that are going on are going to be enough. They're looking at one death, and they're looking at current policy and procedures. We need someone to look at the bigger picture, to look at all of these cases that they have mishandled. Not all of us can be lying about what we have gone through with them. I'm not the only one in this community. Together we can make a change. We can make a good change for this agency that's going to benefit the families and children within our community. I can't do it on my own. We need to come together. Change is needed for our community and the children. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, could Morgan Macri? Thank you.
5 minutes, copy that. My name is Morgan Macri. I'm 26 years old. I've grown up in the county of Oswego, and I would like to discuss the DSS topic that has been all over the news. I myself in 2020 was accused of beating my own child that I had via IVF, and I'm absolutely displeased with everything going on. I was harassed, stalked past hours of CPS's operational hours. I was medically discriminated by Erica Goff, the police department of Oswego County. I was belittled and told that by Judge Thomas Benedetto, I was a worthless mother and I should not have children, all because I had cystic acne, that not one caseworker out of the 7 I had would even ask me about nor give me any answers as to why they thought I was on any type of drugs. I passed 9 drug tests that DHS said that they would pay for. I ended up paying for them. The cost came out to $856. By mid-August of 2020, we had had a home for 4 months in the state of Colorado. I spent $496,000 on a home. And for 8.5 months, my husband, who is in the military, was not granted access to his child because Oswego County CPS discriminates the military. Well, if he doesn't have child care, he can't have her. Okay, then I'll move out there. No, you're not allowed. Well, why not? You need supervised visits. On what grounds? None. They have no grounds. They showed up, stripped my 3-year-old child without consent, without permission. They left my daughter traumatized, screaming for my help, and the police officer went to draw her gun at me and told me that if I touched my child, I would be arrested. They were illegally granted access into my home multiple times. I've had Tiana Ferroni, Erica Goff, Brenda Lutninsky all show up to my house unannounced and just enter my home without any warning. Not a knock, not a phone call, not a text. Walked into my house, 8 o'clock in the morning sharp, multiple occasions. I got fired from Felix Scholler in 2020 of September because Tiana Ferroni thought it would be okay to show up to work unannounced, to make sure I was at work, and to make sure I was doing what I was told I'm supposed to be doing. I was told that I'm not allowed to live at my home with my child, so I didn't. So in the middle of the COVID pandemic, not once but twice, I got diagnosed with COVID. Thankfully, my daughter never got it. But when I did, Thomas Benedetto court order violated me and made me go 2 months without seeing my daughter after the fact of having the New York State Health Department order to me to stay in the home that I was already in because I was not allowed to leave due to quarantine orders. I was violated. They violated my HIPAA rights with the urgent care in Pulaski, multiple accounts.
When I read the notes that I have, they were saying that it's not a big deal. You signed a paper saying that we're allowed to talk to your primary, so we can call anybody we want. I felt violated. I felt like I was naked every chance I got to be around these people, every time I was in court with them, and I'm very displeased. As of this year, as I'm watching the news show all this corruption, I ask you guys to please make a change. We need to do better. These caseworkers are mandated to read a New York State handbook of social services. In every single page I read, there is every law they need to know about these children and what they're allowed to do for protocols. And every caseworker I've talked to, none of them even know what I'm talking about. I don't think that's okay. I think that's wrong. I don't think it's fair that people that are hardworking parents take care of their children and do what they're supposed to do and make every effort that CPS tells them to do, and it's still not good enough. I don't think it's fair. I've went over every single revenue I can. I've went to William Barclay's office, which I'm very close to him because he is one of my neighbors down by camp. I've reached out to the legislation office multiple times here, and nobody has responded. It's been 2 years. I have reached the senator's office in Albany. I've even driven there and brought this to their attention and been told they cannot help me. When I brought it up with the higher up of the courthouse in Oswego County for family court, I was told that Thomas Benedetto is doing an awesome job and I shouldn't worry. Who do I call when my mother has care over my child that CPS said it was okay, and I have to go at 7 in the morning to retrieve 2 children and get another court violation because my mother is driving around at 10 o'clock at night with a child under the age of 5, drunk? Who do I call? The police? Well, now I'm a sober adult. They're not going to help me. What do I do? What do you guys need to do in order to make things better? There needs to be better requirements for these caseworkers to actively be out doing these home visits. They need to be required to read these handbooks. They need to know what the laws are. We need to do better. The deaths this year are unimaginable. I cannot imagine how all these families feel, and I can imagine the heartbreak of burying your child, as many of us would not want to do before we all die. We don't want to bury our kids. None of us do. And I would not expect the same from anybody in this room to ever think that it's okay to bury your child. My 4-year-old, she's currently 4, has PTSD and nightmares. She does not let me brush her hair still to this day. She will not let me help her get her dressed or undressed. I had a caseworker again show up yesterday to my house on falsified reports. My daughter ran. She hid. When asked why she would do this, I had to tell the lady that she is terrified of CPS people showing up because she knows their badges. They all have the same lanyards. My daughter has them memorized. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I want you guys to all do better. We are all parents in this room. We all have a lot going on outside of work. We all have stressors. But at the end of the day, it's not okay. This has got to stop. The deaths are getting outrageously horrible. What do we do now with this? What do you guys do now? You guys have made the news. What do we do now with this? Do I turn around and sue the state of New York? Do I turn around and sue the county for hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've had to invest in house hopping, medical inspections, cars I've had to fix because I have to travel hours away from my home to do these home visits that I'm told to do? What am I supposed to do now when I have a court order that says that if I want my child back, I have to do a parent assessment? But the one person I can do the parent assessment with was just arrested 2 weeks ago for corrupting her medical files. What do we do now? Is the FBI actually involved? If they are, I really hope so. I hope they open every single one of these cases back open. I will be the first one back here. Make changes. I'm so displeased with so many people's actions with this stuff. I shouldn't have to live in fear. I should be able to call the police and call CPS if I feel like something is wrong. And now I can't do that. I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe calling any of you. It's not fair, and I should be able to trust people. That's what your jobs are. I should be able to trust the police, and I can't. I cannot call DHS for any help or assistance because there is none to give now. Please do better. Our kids do not deserve this. Please make better requirements, or there will be legal action coming for you. Have a nice night. Have a good night.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on comments unrelated to the resolution today? Well, folks, that wraps it up.